on the third day of the 8th annual Startup Boston Week. I am Harish, and I'm being your host today. Huge thank you again for Suffolk University for hosting this conference for us for the second consecutive year. As you may have noticed, Suffolk University's downtown location is the perfect hub for exploring Boston's innovation ecosystem and learning from industry leaders. The goal behind Startup Boston Week is to connect the entire greater Boston community across all industries and startups, all bootstrapped and funding stages, for 5 days of learning and connecting with one another. The team that creates Startup Boston Week is primarily volunteer, and all the folks working the conference here today are also volunteering their time. So thank you for attending this conference. This is a labor of love, and we appreciate you playing a role in shaping our startup community. Thank you so much again, and now on to the session.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to Happy Sellers, Happy Sales, cultivating a culture that keeps your sales stars thriving. Your hosts today are myself, Andy Wilson, and Vishal Sunak. I will introduce the two of us, and then we'll get into it. Thank you guys for being here at the end of the day. We appreciate it. So I'm Andy Wilson, and I've spent the last 15 years or so working in ad tech, startups, various roles in sales and sales leadership. A large chunk of that time was at a company called Share This, where I joined really early, second seller there. We grew the business from $0 to $50 million, and then due to some major shifts in the space, had to make a big pivot and essentially rebuild the company, which we did successfully, but not without some battle scars. I've worked in pretty much every sales role from junior IC to SVP of sales, leading the revenue org. And I'm currently working consulting on many of the topics that we're covering today. So excited about that. When I'm not working, I'm spending a lot of my time outside with my 3 crazy kids, husband and dog in Vermont. This is Vishal. He has quite the bio, so he's the star of the show.
Sure.
He is the founder and CEO of Link Squares, a leading AI-powered legal tech platform trusted by over 1,000 in-house teams, including Wayfair, Time, and Boston Celtics. Go Celts. Under his leadership, Link Squares has achieved rapid growth, ranking in the Inc. 5000 Deloitte Technology Fast 500 lists. Vishal was named an EY Entrepreneur of the Year in 2021 and one of Boston Business Journal's 2022 40 Under 40. Outside of work, he mentors Boston startups, plays guitar, and enjoys adventures with his family. Welcome today.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, great. My 5-year-old just took his first guitar lesson yesterday.
Oh, nice.
What was your first song you learned?
Oh, I had 2 lives in playing guitar when I was a kid, and then I quit.
Okay.
And then I played piano, classical piano, and then I started playing saxophone. Wow. And then I picked up guitar later, and I taught myself then from scratch when I was 16. So you're gonna laugh. "Bad Boys for Life" was the first song I ever learned on guitar.
Awesome, love
That's
it.
it. "Bad Boys for Life," like when on the second version of it.
That's great.
Because we're bad boys for life.
Yeah.
Can still play it.
Well, fun fact, we went to Northeastern at the same time, but we did not know each other. Since it's 5 o'clock, I would love to know which was your NU bar of choice back in the early 2000s.
Oh, it's a dead even heat between Connors and our house.
Yeah, okay.
I was never a punter.
You were never a pub guy. Okay.
We
All
never
right,
made
Pete.
it that far down. We'd go the other way to Boylston Street. So.
All right, got it. Nice. Well, we would love to start off by just understanding who's in the audience, at least in person today. Are there any founders that have joined us today?
Connors, great. Hello.
Hello, welcome. Anyone pre-seed stage? Yeah, seed? Okay. Anyone Series A?
Seed, beyond.
Yeah.
Anyone beyond? Okay.
Okay,
great. Hey.
cool. Yeah, that's super helpful. So Link Squares is clearly a rocket ship that you and your team have built from the ground up. I would love it if you could take us back to the beginning, kind of talk us through how it all started.
Yeah, sure. I was working at a tech company here in Boston. It got acquired by another tech company. I had a really awesome job at this company, Backupify, which is, I worked in operations, which just meant I was like an odd projects guy. That's what I made my career on, odd projects. And that really helped me gain a lot of knowledge and basis into like, how do sales teams work? What is marketing all about? How do you build products? What's finance doing? I don't like the finance stuff. So, and I had this like incredible exposure to just so many great experts and learning from them. And one of these odd projects came to my desk, which was like we had shared investors with another company, and that the company that was going to buy us was like way, way bigger than us. And they were like, okay, cool, we're going to merge into this company, and can you just help them with whatever they need, like, data, business intelligence, the metrics type of stuff, which I've kind of been helping with. And so the company that bought us asked a really simple question. Well, we're going to transfer all these contracts over to us, and we're going to take all your revenue and movement into our P&L, and then have like very specific questions about what you've agreed to in all these contracts that you signed with thousands of customers. And they said, well, these are all the questions we have, and like, tell us the answers, and like which ones. For example, like we were a backup company, they were a backup company. We used AWS to store all the data at rest. They didn't. They had their own data center, so they're like, real easy. I just want to move all your customers off AWS, bring your AWS bill down because it's quite high. Can we do that? There's one question. Can we just do that? And the answer to this question was impossible. We had thousands of contracts. Some were on our standard contract, the one that we had drafted. Some were on theirs, so like that's called third-party paper. Then there are the ones in the middle, like we negotiated theirs to something like ours, or ours to something like theirs. And the answer to this question is like impossible. You're never going to be able to do it manually. Well, first of all, we didn't even have them all. It's like, where are all the contracts? I'm an engineer by background, so it's like, let's break this problem down into steps so we can try to piece off these steps. Like, where are all the contracts? I don't know. I have no idea. They're in filing cabinets. They're attached to Salesforce opportunities. They're in Google Drive. They're in sales reps' emails that no longer exist here. So, okay, hypothetically, if we can match up the general ledger and get every single contract, what could we do with them? All right, we had a bunch of them. We had hundreds of them, thousands of them, but we didn't have all of them. Assuming we could get all of them, how do we get this answer? They're all scanned PDFs. I mean, e-signature, this was 2012, 2013. E-signature was a thing, but it wasn't like ubiquitous, like everyone uses e-signature now. These are all scanned PDFs. What's a scanned PDF? You printed this out, you signed it by hand, and you put it back on a scanner. You turned it into a PDF, but it's an image, it's not searchable. So then we found all these scanned PDFs, and it's like, well, now we can't Control F search these for data transfer or whatever the buzzword could be. I was like, whoa, this is insanity. Like, how do people survive? And that was like a moment in time. My co-founder was like in the desk next to me. We saw it firsthand. He worked in account management. I worked in ops. We both kind of saw this problem. We were both getting the end of this problem from different directions. And it was like a moment where it's like, this is really interesting. We are like nothing special. Like, we are not like OpenAI or anything. We're not like a super special company. Like, why is this such a problem for us? And that was the thesis, to go and figure out, like, there are other people that have the same problem, and then build a company and keep going. So
Here we are. Wow.
here we are. Just that easy. 8 years later, it's just.
Well, since this session is specifically about sales, you go from you have this idea, right? And then obviously you're building a product, and now you have to go find people who want to buy it from you.
Yeah.
And so talk to us about founder-led sales, and like, is it what it sounds like? What was your experience with that? Can you kind of talk us through that?
I'll just preface it with, like, maybe that's like step 0.
Okay.
I would say there's like a step -1, which is forming a well thought out thesis on who's going to buy this and what the problem is and what the product that you've built, and being maniacal about customer discovery and not rushing to say, well, I talked to 10 people and 10 people thought it was really awesome, and like, let's go build this thing, and then spend money we don't have and go build a product that no one wants. I think, like, as you're going on a journey to become a founder of a company, the number one thing you should really worry about is you've built the wrong product to solve the wrong problem, and the person who would want to pay for your product doesn't have the problem that you built the product for, and that's like a big issue. So I always say, try to talk to 100 of your buyers. So this whole 100 of your buyers thing ended up being the general counsel of companies. This is the head of the legal team inside of companies. We didn't have a general counsel at the company I worked at because we were still too small. So I knew enough smart people that I had met over the years nudged me towards, like, hey, in bigger companies, they have a person, they do this job, that this is their responsibility. They are the general counsel. I asked my co-founder, how many general counsels do you know? He goes, 0. I say 0 too. So yeah, to the founder-led sales, we did the only thing, 2 guys, with a little bit of money could possibly do to optimize talking to as many of these buyers that we thought we had a thesis around. Well, you're the one that have the problem. I know you have this problem. Let's chat. But I don't know any. So we bought 25,000 email addresses from a person that I think they're in Pakistan or UAE. They're somewhere. I don't even know where they are. And we bought these email addresses for, I don't know, 25 cents on a dollar for each one of them, and we paid 25 cents each, and we just started dripping them. Just started cold emailing them, like 4 sequence nurture, had a little copywriting help from a friend, 4 email sequence, really easy, really punchy. I'm Vishal, you don't know me, I worked at a company that looked like just like yours, we had this problem, can you talk to me? And that wasn't sales. That's not sales, that's just to discover. That's just to do the discovery work. But then, 50 conversations in, but I mean, the conversion rate is terrible. Like you'll send out, we used to do 1,000 every Tuesday or something. And I put 1,000 in. I have like 4 million emails now in my Gmail at work because I did all these drips for so long, these email nurture drips. It's pretty bad when you get started because not a lot of people are responding. A lot of people are telling you, please go away, or a nastier version of please go away. But then eventually you start building the foundation that's like, I'm pitching it. I don't even have a product, I'm just talking to you. Then it's like, do we jump to the product? No, we built a clickable prototype. And it's cheap. Like now, my goodness, with Figma and everything that's available to you now, like you have such a leg up on us. One of my friends was a Rails developer, and so he just built a fake Rails app. It could only, like, 2 buttons worked. Like, that's it. But we could conceptually show someone a demo of this thing. It ran on Heroku, and we subdomained it, like it looked like a real app, just to take an app back to show people, to kind of then build the thesis that, like, okay, we have the conviction now to actually go build a real thing, and then go from there. And going from there, I mean, to, founder-led sales, like what is it about? Well, it's about taking as many at-bats as you possibly can and being pretty terrible at it. And especially in the early days, it's maybe yourself, you, and someone else, and just consistency of like, okay, we're learning, we're trying to sell, we're trying to do it. And then eventually, you get one person there to the end. And I don't know, we had taken thousands of at-bats by that point in time just to get one. I hate to tell you, it's gonna be hard. It is hard. We walked into a company in Boston. I had known the CEO, and she was no longer there. She had moved on, she was chairman of that company. I emailed her and I was like, hey, I think maybe this could be a fit. She gave me an intro to the CFO. We showed up there at their big fancy office, like, whoa, this fancy office is so fancy. And we sat down and we just hung in there. And we talked, and we showed them a demo. This is when the product was built, not just the prototype. And they asked us how much it would cost. And I just said, it's $1,000 a month, 12,000 a year. That's it, that's how we got started. It was that mathematically scientific, y'all. That's the math and science. It's $1,000 a month, and he asked us if we would be his first customer. I was like, no, God, no, first customer, please. We have so many customers in my own brain, in my dreams. We have so many more than just you, but you're here. And then you learn the first time through the crank, like how to do it. Like, he's like, okay, like, will you give me like an order form? And I'm like, yeah, no, we'll totally give you. We have order forms by the dozen. I'm like, shit, we need an order form. We need an order form fast. Make an order form, and then learn about like security processes, doing questionnaires. We had to do a security questionnaire. I never did a security questionnaire in my life. They're painful, they're terrible. Some of them are 1,000 questions long. I guess AI automates it all now, but back in the day, I was the actual individual doing it, the old AI. That was me. So we did that. You get through procurement, you get through buying. They're like, you just understand it, you get it done the very first time. And how great of a day that was. The second one took forever, in a year. Like, it took like months and months and months to repeat this thing. And it's just like, consistency, more at-bats, more drips, another 1,000 emails go into the drip, another 500 people tell you to F off, like keep going, right? Keep going. And then eventually it's like we had 5 logos. We had 1 logo, and then we had 5 logos, and it was like, wow, we have 5 logos paying us money. Jason Lemkin writes this blog, SaaStr, which is probably still the world's greatest source of SaaS knowledge as it exists. They're having their big annual conference right now in San Francisco. And there was an article I read about, like, you have to find 10 people that don't know you. They don't know your dad's golfing buddy. They don't know you at all. They just bought the product on merit. And once you get 10, you can get 100, you can get 1,000. And we were just constantly just chugging at it, just building more pipeline, just taking more opportunities, trying to pitch it the same, trying to get through objections. You just learn about all that stuff. I never sold a thing in my life before that. Not one thing, ever. Like, literally ever. I studied engineering in college. It wasn't a path that I took, but then as a founder, you become that person pretty quickly.
Yeah, so if it didn't come naturally for you, for other founders that are in your shoes now, do you have any advice for kind of like getting through that initial phase or getting more comfortable with it?
You're just gonna have to get through it. I mean, it's not gonna be fun or easy, but there's so much more, I think, available today about how to increase your chances, how to study. It's not, I used to think sales was like, it's the bravado of selling something. It's the passion and the pitch, like a used car salesman. Like, it's not like that at all with software sales. It's like you have a well-defined process. You're trying to ask them if, like, hey, do you want a demo? Like, we'll give you a demo, but let me ask you some questions before. Like, you just learn about basic sales methodology. There's so much published now. Y Combinator has a lot on it. Sequoia has a lot on it. E16Z has a lot on it. There's just a lot of, Bessemer has Atlas, which, like, it just studied guides of great successful companies and how they got started. Founder-led sales is really the art of turning like a D+ grade into like a C-, and then hopefully you can just give it to someone else. That's what I say.
So you've talked about 0 to 1 million as you guys were kind of chasing logos, right? Then when you get to sort of that next stage, you hit that $1 million. How does that sort of shift for you?
Yeah. The journey to $1 million in ARR, annual recurring revenue, is really just about learning the basic pattern of like go-to-market channels. And you typically don't have tons of money at this point of the journey. Either you may have raised like a small friends and family round, like maybe put a couple $100,000 in the bank account, or maybe you're more advanced, you've raised like a pre-seed round, but it's probably not even that typical that much anymore. The journey 0 to 1 million is like data tracking. Like, how did we get this person to get on the phone with us? Like, what is the source and what is the tactic that we use? So like, the source is email. And, the source is like outbound. Like we engaged someone and asked them if they would like to talk. And the tactic we used was email, or the tactic we used was LinkedIn. And it's like 2 fields that we would put into our CRM and say, please just track these 2 things and just be honest about where it came from. So once you have the source and the tactic, then you can start to see like, okay, cool. We did 100 demos, like in 100 days, like 1 a day. Okay, this is awesome. What are the channels that are working the best? And from there, it's like, cool, on 0 to 1 million, you're just consistently, we're just trying to do the same thing every single day. We're trying to get the same at-bats every single day. And then when you reach kind of like $1 million, depending on, that could be 1 logo if you're selling $1 million a year product. For us, that was like 50-ish, like we were selling about 20K. So it's like, man, we did this 20 times. Like we know we did it 20 times. We may have taken 2,000 at-bats to get 20 people to say yes, but who cares about that? We did it. We got 20 people to say yes. Really from like 1 to 10, the old adage was like, how fast can you go to 10 is really the pattern matching on some of these juggernauts like Twilio and Box and all the others that exist. It's really architected like, can you do it in 2 years? Or can you do it in like 2.5 years? Like, so can you go like 1 to 3 or 4? Can you go like 4 to 10? And that's really just the math and science around what you learned from 0 to 1. Like by that time we had hired like some BDRs, we had some closers, we knew like, okay, this much amount of activity. We built a little funnel model, like how many ops do we need? How many deals do we need? How many demos do we need to do? You have the semblance of like a funnel model, which obviously becomes much more important with scale, you understanding like, your demand funnel and how it goes through. And then it's just like working backwards. And then if you really want to grow like 200, 300%, it's like, well, we're going to need a lot of people. Like we're gonna need like to hire like 10 people like tomorrow, like, or 8 people or whatever the number is. And then really just focusing on, at that point in time, like I tell founders, try to run it close to $1 million of ARR and then hire an expert who can take you way beyond. You'll always be involved in sales in some way as a founder or an early employee at the company. But by 600-700K, you should probably be looking around like, okay, we need like a VP of sales, or we need like a sales director. And then you can hand it off to them, but you're handing off something really great. Like we already have 600-700K. I'll tell you how I did it. We're not good at this, so hypothetically, you're even better at this than I am. You'll be able to take this way further than we can. Right. And that's kind of what you're trying to transition it to.
So that says though, like Link Squares is your baby, and you've done this. Like you love this company. You've put your heart and soul into it, and now you're making your first sales hire. How do you think about bringing the right type of person into that role? Like someone that will care about it, almost as much as you do. Is it about like finding the right type of person or incentivizing them the right way, setting them up to be successful? What are the things you think about for that person?
One thing that's really important is sales leader ASP fit. So the sales leader that you have and the selling price that you are trying to sell with, they have direct knowledge of that selling price range. And what I mean is, if on paper you found somebody, they're very impressive, let's say they've worked at Workday or Salesforce or some insane tech company, HubSpot or whatever, but like they're used to selling like $3 million deals that take 17 months to close, but you're trying to sell a 30-day sales cycle product at 15K, it'll just never work. Yes, they are super smart. Yes, they are very knowledgeable, a lot more knowledgeable than you are, but it just won't work because the way they are going to architect their yearly plan, the way they're going to architect the resourcing that they need, the strategies to go get it done, you have to find the right leader who has experience selling directionally around your band, right? Like even if it's like, oh, I've actually built a career selling at 50K, and you're at 20K, well, that's cool. One day you're gonna wanna sell at 50K. Okay, great, well, like that's cool, like help us get there. But if you find someone who's like, has super enterprise experience, they look great on paper, you love saying, oh, we just hired someone from Twilio or Box and they're incredible, it'll probably not work the way that you want it to, right? And it doesn't really matter if they've been selling to this buyer. Like general counsel, you're not gonna find that many people who have sold to like the in-house lawyer. So find someone, don't overfit on that either. It doesn't really matter. If someone is good at sales, they will figure it out. Because it's the same thing, whether you're selling to IT team or marketers or sales leadership or CFOs. There's a lot more diversity now, I think, with just like the buyer profile. And now with maybe the last 5 or 10 years, you start seeing people who sold to more things. Back in the day, it's like there were kind of limited options. That doesn't really matter. That didn't really even matter. It's like, here's what I know about sales. Here's all the terrible things that I've done to get us to almost $1 million in ARR. I'm sure you will do great, dude. Like way better than me. Right?
When you're actually interviewing those first candidates, are there things that you thought most about, or do you have any tips or tricks for assessing particular qualities in people? Like, so if you've aligned on the selling price, like we've got that nailed down, but then the other more intangibles. Yeah, sometimes it's a really hard conversation just around their personal burn rate, like, and the right fit for the type of life that we are living currently. I'm sorry that if you're making 600 grand a year, I'm not going to be able to replace your salary. I'm so sorry. I can offer you a ton of equity that hopefully will be worth something one day, and I can pay you literally 3 times more than I'm making right now, but that's the most I can do.
And that's kind of like how you have to sift through it. It's like when the rubber hits the road, you're really trying to like find someone who wants to like join this company with you. And when I started Link Squares, like I had my girlfriend who's now my wife, right? Like we didn't have children. I have 2 kids now. Like it's a different risk profile for me to now think about joining the company 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And it's just much harder, right? So you're gonna run into that too. You're gonna be someone you absolutely love, think they're perfect for the role, think they're absolutely amazing, but they're just gonna be like, I can't live without 400 grand a year. And it's like, well, it's never gonna work. I'm sorry. And unfortunately, you'll have to trade that off with someone you need now. Like you need people now. Like you can't infinitely wait for someone also. And really kind of finding the mix of someone that it's probably someone who was like a director who never really got the VP gig, but has the pattern matching that they are ready for that. It's like maybe the first time that they've had that leadership role is like a really good fit, but they have a really decent resume of like, hey, I've done this stuff that you're talking about, but I've never been VP. It's probably even easier because they're like, yeah, VP, cool, kind of lifestyles kind of match up. It's not going to be like we have a big fancy office. We have nothing. We have a small beer fridge with beer that's old. Like, there's no perks to it, but there is plenty of satisfaction in the fulfillment of getting, making it happen, right? And that's kind of what you have to pitch it on. And I always had a phrase like, "Hey, you hate this office? I hate this office too. I do too, right? Like, you think that the coffee machine is shitty? Yeah, I do too. Okay, so here's the plan. We are gonna sell our way out of this shitty office that we have." Okay, like trust in the fact that if we keep on doing the same things every single day, focus on inputs, right? Not just outputs. Outputs is what the scoreboard says at the end of the 4th quarter of a football game. But the inputs of that are like, how was your practice? And did you do the right things? If we focus on our inputs, we believe that we can make it. I will get us out of this crappy office. I swear to God. And I did many times. I got us out of a crappy office many times. With just like, for us, we thought venture capital was a good path for us with what we wanted to do. We're an AI company. We needed specialized talent. We needed machine learning experts. We needed money for GPUs and model programming and all that sort of stuff. So I chose venture capital as a way to say, we're going to raise this money. We're going to get the F out of this shitty office. And then that is like, then you can get a raise and like we can all pay ourselves more. And we'll just keep on stacking this success. And I raised cash like every single year, like 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I just did it every single year. And then it was like, okay, cool, well, let's get out of this office. Yeah, and it works because then someone is really invested, they're really bought in. Leadership is just like bought into it, right?
Well, there's like something so incredible about feeling like you're part of it, right? Like you are actually contributing. When you're a salesperson, like the calls that you're making, the deals that you're closing are actually impacting the whole company and your day-to-day life, right? Like your ability to then move on to the next office or whatever it is. I love what you're saying about the inputs too, because I feel like with sales, some days are really great and some days are really bad. And just being able to focus on like what are the things that we can actually control, and those are the inputs, right? Like we know if we do enough of these things, like we know how this will play out. And today might not be our day, but if like we keep at it the next day and the next day and the next day, and we're really consistent about the metrics that we know are going to drive our business, ultimately like we'll get over that hump.
Absolutely.
So, I love that.
The scoreboard is a reflection of the little things you do every single day, consistently every single day. Even though it's boring, even though it sucks, you got to make your dials, you do your deal reviews. And then it's really your founder's job to get in there and be like, well, let me get on the closing call, or let me do the security questionnaires. Now I've done 600 or 700 security questions. I gave it up after we raised our Series B. They forced me to give it up. But it's like doing the work. Like I am here with you. I am right alongside with you. And the only thing that I want to do with you as a seller is help you make tons and tons of money. Let me help you do that.
Well, I feel like one of the sort of typical sales challenges or fears, right, is like you go to a new company, you have an amazing year, you knock it out of the park, you make a bunch of money, and then the next year the quota goes through the roof, and you're like, you never make money again, right? So for you as like in a leadership role, as CEO, or when you're probably running the sales org, how do you think about that scenario as it relates to having a sustainable sales culture that works for the salespeople, right? It keeps them motivated, but it also works for you as a business, right? Like you have to be able to balance those two things.
In the real early days, we had a really simple model. Like it's uncapped. It's 10% of every deal first year, and just you can eat as much as you can kill. Like infinite amount. There is no OTE. I can tell you. Like it's listen. We're selling at 25K a pop. You're gonna make $2,500 a deal. I will help you. We'll give you all this kind of support. People are already sitting next to you doing it, and they're making I don't know, bad money compared to other places, but it's not bad. We're doing it. And we had a really simple kind of philosophy back then. Then as you like hire a sales leader, they'll come in, they'll kind of set quota. Then we're building capacity planning and figuring out how much quota coverage we need to get the plan done that we want, which is really a never ending thing. It's every year forever. Fundamentally, you got to build plans you believe in, and probably be more conservative on how much each person can produce, right? But it's like, okay, you need to do one logo a month. That's it, just do one logo a month, 25K, that's all I need from you. And you do that, we are good. 12 logos is what we've signed you up for in 12 months. But with sophistication, then it becomes like, okay, well, now there's 20 of us selling. There's 100 people in the company, and there's 20 sellers. And then you really need, pods, and you need leadership, you need some middle management, and we all have to make plans we believe in. If you make a plan you don't believe in that you can make, then you basically will start failing the first month it starts going off, right? And just making sure you find the balance on it. Everyone wants insane growth, like it's still life as it exists, like working it back, making sure it's rooted in good fundamentals, like, okay, 10 sales reps can do 100K each. Okay, great. Well, that's a going in assumption. 10 sales reps, we don't know if they can do 200K each. Let's not bet the entire farm on that. And then people are going to quit. You got to build attrition in. And it's just being realistic, like have a growth mindset. Say, okay, cool, we're going to go 1 to 3 this year. We need $2 million in sales. How are we going to do it? Start working it backwards. Right.
So much of this, or so much what you're talking about is just like data that is fueling your business and the success of the business as a whole, but also the sales org. Are there tools? I'm sure there are lots of tools that you use now as a fully scaled business at Link Squares to support the sales org, but early days, are there certain things that you implemented that you feel like are crucial to the success in understanding the business and the data and then building on it?
Free HubSpot CRM, great product. We used it for a long time. I had like knowledge in CRMs because I used to do that in my former life in ops. And free HubSpot CRM, couple of fields, track it. You can only track what you can only measure what you track. So make some fields, put them in, track the source, track the tactic, like leave yourself call notes. Back then there was no call recording. So we love that. We then went to outreach early. So then it was, well, we went to outreach when then we moved to Salesforce, finally kind of went to the basic level Salesforce plan. HubSpot really didn't have the sales tools that it has now. That ecosystem was just starting. Like the CRM product for HubSpot was just like the first new thing they built after marketing automation. So CRM, I would have stayed there. Like if they had the whole suite that they have today, I think it's a great product. Plug my friend Christopher's Day.ai. He was chief product officer at HubSpot. He's got a new company doing CRM stuff, kind of fully automated. Can I ask, can these come down? Harish, is there a shade that can come down? Is it possible? Okay. Sorry for the interruption.
I know. You're just sweating it out.
I love the HubSpot suite. I think that's a great product, and you really don't need Salesforce these days, like for a lot longer, a ways longer. We didn't use Zoom Info, but we use LinkedIn, kind of upgrade everyone's LinkedIn plan so they can send more LinkedIn messages. It's like a basic stack, like really basic stack. Okay. And we were still buying those leads from, people, email addresses from people that would mine them for us. And that's it. I mean, it's basic. You're running a small company, right? So thanks so much.
At what point do you feel like the culture of Link Squares went from just the company culture is the people and who we are and the decisions that we make, and it just is organically we are who we are, to we're kind of a big company now, and we have to be really intentional about the decisions that we make and how we impact the people at the company to be who we want to be, like to align with our mission statement and to like really drive those things home.
Yeah, there's definitely an inflection point when you start hiring lots and lots of people.
Yeah.
Like when we hired like 50 people in 1 year, or 75 people, or 100 people in a year. You really need to have all that kind of in place, because then you're really competing against other more established companies. What's a side into building that? We never really wrote down who we were when we were in the early days, like 1 million, 2 million even. We didn't have values and mission statements. We're just like, build products, sell it, keep these customers happy, get more, keep going, just keep going, working 20 hours a day, just keep going every single day as hard as we possibly can. And right around the point where we were gonna raise our Series B, and that hiring plan was just like, we needed so many people, we better go and put it on the wall now, like figuratively, write it down. But it was so quick to be written down, because it's really the reflection of 7 out of my first 10 employees are still with me. And who are these people? And what are they? What are they to me? Not like, all right, 5 of us. Well, it's really the original 6 of us. The original 6 of us are still together. Take out the founders. Look at these 4 people. Who are they? What do they embody? What have they done for 2 or 3 years that I'm like, I want more people that are like them. Yeah. Who are the people that are like them? And so then it's like, do the first pass at like what your values are. I think values are more important really to begin with than maybe vision, because you may not know the vision. It may be kind of evolving and changing in the future. Mission statement is kind of like, for what it's worth, how often do I use our mission statement? I don't know, not that much. But the values I use a lot. And we kind of cemented around like 4 things, which was being team first. So these four incredible original hires that I had that are still with me. Who are these people? It's like, they'll do anything for us. Like 9 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 1 in the morning, we're still working on it. We're fixing something. We're working on a West Coast deal that we wanted to close. It's 1 in the morning. It's 10 p.m. on the West Coast. We're still working this deal. We are still doing it. Being team first, being customer driven. So I always say our customers have their hands on the steering wheel, and we are really in charge of the gas pedal. I'm not a general counsel. I'm not a lawyer. Neither is my co-founder. So like, really, my opinion doesn't matter. I don't care what we build. I just want to build things that they like and will pay us more for it, right? Like, that's the whole point. Being customer driven and do what you say. Like, I'm a big do what you say person. Like, that's just a personal accountability thing. Like, if I tell you I'll get this done by Tuesday, and get it done by Tuesday, right? And someone makes a promise to you, they got it done for you. And that's really important. And then the 4th thing is just being all in. We just have this thing, all in. I don't know what it is. It's that not drive to get off the couch at 10:30 p.m. to go do something. If like prod goes down, like the app goes down, or someone needs help making an order form, it's like transferring that all in type of culture. And that's kind of the X factor. It just kind of encompasses everything that you want in a person. Is like being all in. Are you all in or not? And I gotta say, those 4 things are like fireable for me, easy. Like, you see it, one of those 4 things are starting to crumble. It's like, hey, you're just telling people you'll do stuff and you never do it. Like, all right, hit the bricks, like you're done. Like, we can't do it. We can't, it's too hard to do it without people that don't fit in this little kind of mode. And it's totally cool. People come and go, some by choice, some by my choice, some by their choice. It's cool. Like, it's fine. Treat people well on the way in and on the way out. I'm a big believer in that. But those 4 values, you try to find people on those 4 values. It's like, this is who we are. You're going to work here. You're going to believe in these 4 things. You're going to hear about it all the time. We give out awards at all hands every quarter, anonymous peer recognition around those 4 values. So like, people in the company can say like, hey, anonymously, Andy did just a great job on this really tricky renewal, and this customer was unhappy, and this, that, the other thing. She came in there, she saved the day, +1 to Andy. If that happened multiple times, you get I don't know, it goes into a lottery system. Get a raffle award of drafted. My HR team does all this, obviously. I don't even know, but things like that help us continue to cement. These are the things. These are the people we are. This is when you work here. This is who you are. Like, we are these people.
I feel like retaining people is one challenge, but also knowing when to say goodbye to people is sometimes an even harder challenge, or at least in the early days.
Absolutely.
Was that hard for you to learn that lesson? And now you're like, okay, I can identify that quickly, and I know that making that decision earlier versus waiting it out and then making that same decision 6 months later, it's going to kill me. Like, have you learned that lesson the hard way or not that way?
Fortunately for me, not that hard,
Okay.
right? I mean, if my original 6 employees are still with me, and a lot from, I would say, the first 20 still are, it's always hard to let someone go that you've worked with for a long time and you have an emotional connection with. It's always a hard thing to do. And it's even harder if they've made it 2-3 years, especially through like the boot camp phase, through like war together, long nights, lots of times on the road. It's hard, but I mean, ultimately, I believe people are good at certain stages also, and you're probably doing someone a favor, especially as it gets way later, like past 25 million, past 30 million, 40 million in revenue, 50 million in revenue. You just need a different person that probably, I mean, some people scale to infinity. That's great. Results really matter though at a certain level. I would say in the early days, the first kind of 30 days are like the next 3,000. And if it's feeling pretty good in the first 30 days, it's probably gonna feel good for the next 3,000 days. It's just how it kind of is. But if it's not going good in the first 30 days, like especially in sales roles, like you're not getting the script, you're not figuring out how to do the pitch the way that we do it. You're just kind of pacing your cohort that we hired at the same time is outpacing you. Maybe then it's like you're not doing the required activity either. It becomes pretty clear in like sales roles, right? It becomes pretty easy because so much of it is input focused. Did you make your dials? Did you clean up your CRM records? Did you do the fundamental building blocks of the job? And if you're not doing those, probably 90 days is when you really know. And Mark Robert's one of the founders of HubSpot, a great CRO and now venture capitalist. He used to have this net 2 philosophy, right? Net 2, hire 3 people, expect to keep 2, get rid of 1, unfortunately, hire another 3 people, keep 2. And you're kind of doing this every 90 days, trying to figure out, like, can we find 10 people this way? Can we find 20 people this way? And scale it that way. That like net 2 is like Mark's thing that he used to talk about all the time, which I remembered.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. Lastly, before we open up to more questions from the group, would be, you guys have raised some serious money, over 160 million, I think, right? How has venture capital influenced your journey? Like, that's a broad question, but.
Yeah. There's a lot of misconceptions around venture capital and what it is, and maybe people seek that as the prize, I don't know, some sort of prize to be written about in TechCrunch, or, Keith will give you an article on VentureFizz, or big plug for VentureFizz. I will tell you though, fundraising is not real life. And what you read about in TechCrunch is not real life. You can read about it and you can be obsessed with it every single day. $20 million round here, $50 million round here. I just got the push notification, OpenAI is trying to raise $6.5 billion. Well, good for them, right? Like, fundraising is not real life, and it represents both an inflection of progress you've made in 18 months or 2 years or last year or whatever it is, and a guarantee of what comes next, which is even more of what you were doing to start. Now, generally, I've had a positive experience with venture capital. I think where we were when we started, just given the fact that we wanted to build a highly sophisticated technology product, requires a heavy domain knowledge in web applications and machine learning and data science. That was kind of the foundation of it. You're not going to get people like that to work for free. You are definitely not going to get people to work like that for free in the world the way that it is today. And venture capital is like a means of rocket fuel. So you put it in the bank account, and what do you do associated with a fundraiser? It's like, cool, the day the cash hit the bank, here's the hiring plan. We're gonna raise $4 million. Here's the hiring plan. Here's all the hires we're gonna make. And then it's like, great, well, with this money, I'm using it to go faster. That's what it's for. If I don't have the money, I won't go as fast. If I have the money, I can go faster. Now, shit happens, right? Like, No one expected in 2022 the world would literally fall apart in our entire sector, and now reaching the rebuilding point, and living in high interest rates and things like that. So use it for the right things, which is understand that you're on a treadmill where the incline is getting higher every time you raise more. The speed on the treadmill is getting much, much higher. The rate in which you have to grow is the promise you make on the fundraise. That's why people gave that to you. You said, if you give me $3 million, I can go from $2 to $6 million next year, and this is how I know I can do it. And that's really what it's for. Now, along the way, it's cool. Like now you can hire people that, you could pay that person $400K now. And one day we had so much money in hand that we never had before. It's like, we could hire anybody at any price, anywhere, and this is really great. Now, how do we use it really smartly? Well, you hire more senior technical experts, people with 20 years of experience, like they're in their AWS, like the back of their hand, like, okay, that's cool, we should do that. We should hire some data scientists, real PhDs, like people that are really, really smart. We know it, like we're sort of smart, they're really, really smart. You start hiring domain experts, like, great, we can hire a really great sales leader, we got a really great marketer. We can hire, someone to do the finance part of it, which ultimately ends up becoming a large part of it is the finance part of it. You're a financial asset to someone that bought ownership in your company. They care deeply about the finances of everything, right? And it's part of the journey. Now, you can do it without the journey. There's so many great success stories that you don't need it. You don't need it to be successful. You do need to figure out how to get the company off the ground. And whether that's friends or family or your great-great-grandmother who left you a couple bucks, like, I don't know, like, I can't solve that for you. But you don't need it to be successful. It is not the thing that is stopping you from your success. If you're in the software space like me, we build a product for a person that has a problem that I am trying to solve the problem for, and then I go and try to sell them that, and I try to keep the ones that bought them happy. And if you just focus on those three things and don't get enamored by like venture capital, man, we can get an article in TechCrunch, and it's gonna be so cool, man. That's so cool. Like that's like, I run into so many people like this, and I'm like, you have no idea what it's like in the real world. That's not even real life. That's a moment in time. You got an article written about you. Now, like, watch them have to go, and they never report their revenue number, right? Like what happened after the fundraise? Like, did it work or did it not? Like, did they grow and make their plan? I guess maybe, you keep on raising more rounds is probably the evidence that that's happening. And if you're joining a company, that's like an interesting way of like understanding, like, when was the last time they fundraised and why didn't they do it again? Like, especially in the early days, seed, A, B. I mean, given the world is like a lot harder than it was when I was doing it, low interest rates and just kind of easier on the bull run. But it's you know what it is? It's this. It's a bottle of water, right? How much stock could you put in a bottle of water really in your life? Like, this water is really important, right? H2O, he's drinking it, I'm drinking it. Yeah, cool. Like, H2O is really important. If we don't drink this, we will die, right? That's just it. If you don't ever drink this or eat anything or drink anything with us, you will die. But venture capital is a lot like a bottle of water. Like, it's H2O, it's still H2O, that's money, right? This is the money part of it. It's money. Money is money. Comes into your bank account, and then it's marketing. This, Kirkland does not have the greatest marketing. But Smart Water, Jennifer Aniston markets that, and maybe if I drink the water like her, I'll look like her at 50, which is unlikely. But think about venture capital like this. It's just like one bottle of water. And people are going to pitch you all different types of bottles of water. Oh, man, my water does this. My water does that. A bottle of water is a bottle of water. I'm going to drink it because I need it, and it's important, but it's not everything. A bottle of water can't get you out of bed either. Like, ask myself if this Kirkland water from Costco can get me out of bed on a hard day, or like you said, many hard days of trying to do this. It can't. Venture capital can't get you out of bed. You got to get yourself out of bed, take that money, make the company worth more, right? Grow faster, get more customers, get the company's valuation higher. That's why you raise it. You raise it to skyrocket the valuation of the company. Use it to make a chart that looks like this. Your revenue chart looks like this. That's why you should do it. If you don't have the confidence in doing it, or maybe it's not your vibe, don't do it, right? But it's like anything. Got to figure it out too.
With that, I think that's like the perfect segue. We have probably 10 minutes to open it up to the audience.
What's up? How are you? We're waiting for microphones just because it's being streamed online.
So, like in the past, you talked a lot about the trio and SaaS, like about the product and engineering, marketing, and revenue. How do you keep your sales stars, like their egos, from not interfering with other departments?
It's a really interesting balance, right? You can easily get into a habit where, sales can point the finger at product and be like, well, I would sell more if you had more features. Like, and I've gotten on all these calls and they need this feature and it's like feature and this feature and you end up being like 5 features away from the epiphany for like the rest of your eternity. Like, and it's really a mindset around, we can't finger point because that's not our value. My 5th value in the company is not I actively point my fingers at other people and blame them for it. We can't do that. So we have to come to semblance on, I can't build everything that you want. I can't build all of it all at once. Right now, we don't have the resources to do it. Even if we are working 16, 18 hours a day, we can't do it. But finding a balance, but really the thing that I think is the most important is like features don't really matter. Are you selling the value of the product in a way that it makes the most sense? Egos get in the way, they do. It often happens, right? And sometimes it's like, I think I should be making 500K and that's like, well, we can't pay you that. So what do you want to do now? You want to quit? Like, I'm giving you the ability to be on a team. We are winning. It is happening. There's a lot of fulfillment and joy that can come from working on the team. But it's just, again, centering someone that you're going to hire around, and you can test for ego just by the way they talk about their experiences. Is it I, or is it we did this, we did that? Like, you want team players. You want some all-stars, and you want to build around them and make sure they can be player coaches. I mean, if you're really great at sales, then you should be actively trying to make everyone around you a better salesperson. And if that's not happening, like, you can't just hog the ball and complain all the time either, right? And it's a balance. There's no perfect thing I can tell you either. But you'll know when it's like, just God, this guy just will not stop. He's unrelenting. Like, he's just constantly just complaining about everything. We call that the negativity spiral. It's like, if you're in the negativity spiral, the best thing I can do is just be like, let's just end it. Like, here, I'll give you some severance. Like, let's just cut bait. It'll just never work. This thing is just too hard. It's too hard anyways, every single day. I can't make it harder with egos and things like that. So it's a balance. Yeah. Yeah, good to see you.
Hey there, thanks so much for making time for this. Question about the earlier days when you were moving. You hired your first sales leader, who's a face and a name in this area as well. I'm just curious, like, what were the metrics, or what did you let someone like the sales leader handle, and when did you say, this is my company, it's time to intervene? Like, what were the key things where you're like, things are going well, I can focus on other parts of the business. There's a million things I could do. Or what are the things that, hey, this isn't going well, what's going on? What were those pieces that you thought you wanted to look at?
Yeah, I got really lucky. I hired a great sales leader, had a good pick, someone I used to work with, had the right kind of seller ASP fit that I had the conclusion on. And it was really about getting kind of next year's plan like set up and lined up is something that we would negotiate. And I saw him grow up a lot in his modeling capability. A lot of it becomes like modeling. So I'm not focusing on how we should do it. How is not my expertise. Like, I'm not a seller. I'm not like a naturally 20 years of selling things. I'm more focusing on the what. Like, what? Okay, we need to go. We need to add $2 million this year. We only have $1 million. So how are we going to do it? Okay, let's break it down. Okay, we added $2 million. How much expansion are we going to get? Take that off. Everything else is new business. Great, with new business, let's negotiate it. What assumptions do you make? I'm more like looking at the assumptions. Now, granted, I have a little extra edge because I had worked around sales teams and building plans and understanding sales operations kind of generally. So it's really just like looking at the assumptions. Like, I don't like that assumption. Or then really teaching the people that join a startup, especially in leadership, around SaaS unit economics. Like, I remember sitting down with my first sales leader and saying to him, well, like, if you do this thing, the CAC payback is totally whacked. It's out of control. Like, this is going to cause more heartache, and we're going to burn cash at a higher rate. And it's like, well, I've never modeled anything with CAC payback in mind. It's like, okay, cool. Well, let me do some teaching. Let me explain to you why this is important, why this efficiency metric is like really important, and where the kind of the ranges of what's acceptable. Let's work on it together. But never like, hey, let me get in and look at the script that you're doing. Like, at some point in time, I've got another 50 other things I got to do. I hired this person to do one of the 50 things I have to go do a day, and just trust that you're on a team. Like, you got it? Like, you got it? Thumbs up. You got it. All right, cool. I'm here. Use me if you need me. I got to go put out another 49 fires today, and then building that trust. But really, my job was just let's look at the plan together. What did you use? What are the assumptions you make? Like, did you model in attrition? Just asking good questions. And you get much better at it. I mean, I'm on year 8. In November, it'll be year 9. Like, I've been doing it for so long now, building plans, I mean, we're already building next year's plan. Like, what are the fundamentals? Now I still do it. My CFO sits down with me, my CRO sits down with me. Let's go 1 to N on every assumption you make. Let me check it. And that's a good skill to be a CEO. I don't want to tell them how to sell. That's not the point. They're here to do it. But like empowering them and entrusting them with it and checking them along the way. Things don't go well, like, hey, let's have a meeting about it. Like, why are we behind on pipeline? Like, what's going on? Oh, you know, like, we hired this batch and it was a bad batch of hires, and like none of them panned out. Okay, cool. Great, well, we gotta keep going, and don't sweat the small stuff. Like, shit's gonna happen. Like if this was easy, everyone would try to do it, but it's not. So, you know, reorient, let's create another plan, and maybe there's a way we can surge and do something scrappy, and just ideas and working through it, right? Again, not another thing that it can't have a silver bullet type of answer I wish I could give you, but checking the assumptions is really important. Like, is this rooted in good fundamentals? Then you have a chance. Rooted in good fundamentals, you're not asking people to do 3 times more than they've ever done a year on billing. Then you're like, okay, cool, this feels like about right. Cool, hey, why not? Give it a rip. It's the best chance we got anyways.
If I could do if no one has a question, I have just a follow-up on that. Just, you were talking about, like, certain people are good for certain stages. I work at a startup that's around like 5 million ARR in the HR space, and we're looking to move into the enterprise, right? Like, we want faster growth, bigger deals, we'll deal with the longer sales cycle. But we need people and process, obviously, to make that jump happen. Yeah. For you, like, how much of someone's ability to sell at a certain stage, like, did you have to evaluate, do I trust this person to get to the next stage, or do I need to hire out? Like, that's sort of the problem that we're running into personally, is how do we decide if someone can up level, or if we need to just bring in fresh talent and start, you know, with a new person?
Yeah, maybe carve off, I don't know, 20% of your targeting resources to try those bigger deals. I'm sure you're already doing that. And
right.
It's a really kind of interesting balance, though, around what got you to 5 million is hypothetically what you don't want to get you to 10 million. And the next 5 million, you're going to try to do faster than the first 5 million. And really making sure that you're also not creating too much variability too frequently, like creating chaos and like, we're going to sell at the price point. No, we changed our strategy. We're going to sell it 5 times our price point. Oh no, that didn't work. We go back to selling at our old price. Like, you don't want like you don't want it to turn into like a frantic frenzy either. So maybe we could chat after. It's hard to give you like a specific answer, like, and know more about it, but you can test these things with like, okay, a single one of our sellers is going to sell at the higher price point. We're going to give them 1 BDR to go and work, and the 2 of them are just going to figure it out. And if we have good pattern matching there, maybe they can teach everyone else about what they learned. You got to get the team to rally behind it, right? What does it mean for them? Oh man, are you telling me longer sales cycles? So what? Like, I make no money because these deals are going to take, 5 times longer to close. Like, and there's just the balance of the team and the morale and making a change. Yeah, I mean, listen, selling at 100K is way easier to get to $1 million than selling at 10K, right? And it's test your way into it, experiment your way into it. That's the only way you're going to know. Even like pricing and packaging, we've changed our pricing and packaging like 100 times, and we're still changing it. We're changing it every year. We're changing it. Sometimes we change it every 6 months. You're never going to be able to say like, okay, I've got it nailed on paper. No, go try selling it. Sell this, bundled, hybrid bundled, completely unbundled, totally bundled, now hybrid unbundled. Like, I don't, you're not going to even know what's going to work unless you try to take some at-bats, actually try it, right? That's kind of the best advice. Try to experiment your way in. If not, roll the dice. I mean, that's like some of it's dice rolling. You gotta be a gambler too if you're a founder. So
That's part of the fun.
gambling is fun.
We're right at 6. I don't know if we're cut off or if there's any other questions, but
Yeah, we'll have to wrap it up because there's another event just about to happen right now.
Thanks everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you,